Chapter 38. The relief force from Norgate clattered across Macindaw's lowered drawbridge and filed through the gatehouse into the courtyard. There were 20 mounted knights and 100 marching men-at-arms, and all of them stared around curiously at the grinning Scandians who manned the battlements. Sir Doric, the battlemaster of Norgate, who was leading the force, saw the small welcoming group waiting in front of the keep and turned his horse towards them. Will noted that there was a ranger riding beside him. That would be Merillon, he thought, the ranger assigned to Norgate Fife. He knew little about the other man, but he had heard that he was inclined to be stuffy and a little set in his ways. Ormond, wearing a heavy gold chain, from which hung the official seal that marked him as chatelaine, stepped forward to meet the two riders. Will, Horace, and Mallkallam stayed back, in deference to Ormond's reinstated authority. Sir Doric raised his hand and called the order for his men to halt and stand at ease. He and Merillon continued to walk their horses forward. It was a formal moment, but the formality was shattered when a figure burst from the second rank of mounted men. He was riding a horse much smaller than the battle horses who surrounded him, and up until now he hadn't been visible. Now, however, he slid out of the stable and raced across the intervening space, falling to his knees before Ormond. "My lord," said Xander, "we're here at last. I'm sorry it took so long. I did all I could." Will, watching Sir Doric, saw a frown of disapproval cross his features. There was a certain protocol that should be followed at moments like this, and the battlemaster seemed to feel the secretary should know that. Sir Doric, it should be noted, was something of a snob. "That's all right, Xander," Ormond told him. Then, in a lowered tone, he added, "Do stand up. There's a good fellow. The leader of the relief force wants to tell us that we're safe." Xander rose and took up his position behind Ormond. Doric and Merillon brought their horses to a standstill, and both men dismounted. It was Will's turn to frown. Politeness dictated that they should have waited until Ormond invited them to step down. If Ormond were offended, however, he showed no sign of it. "Welcome to Castle Macindaw, Sir Doric of Norgate Fife, isn't it?" he said. "I'm Ormond, Castle Lord." Sir Doric slapped his gauntlets on his thigh once or twice. He looked around the courtyard before answering brusquely, and a little distractedly.
Yes. What the devil are all these Scandians doing here?"
A tiny frown creased Ormond's forehead. In the weeks since he had been forced to flee his own castle and hide in the forest, he had lost much of the sardonic behaviour and superior attitude that Will had first noticed in him. It was remarkable what a few weeks spent roughing it in the forest could do for a man, Will thought. "They appear to be defending the castle," Ormond said quietly. "Surely Xander told you they were helping us." But Doric's eyes were still roving the battlements.
Yes. Your man said something about mercenaries, but I thought you would have got rid of them by now. Not safe to have them inside the castle. What?"
"Some of their friends died getting in here," Ormond told him. "I thought it would be churlish to ask them to leave straight away." Doric made a shooing gesture with the back of his right hand, rather as if he were brushing flies away.
No, get rid of them. My men are here now. You don't need these damned Scandians." "They can't be trusted, after all."
That was Merillon, adding his contribution to the discussion. Will felt a slow heat rising in his face and started forward. A hand gripped his forearm and stopped him. He looked up at Horace, who mouthed the words, "Take it easy." He nodded. His friend was right. He reined in his temper, then stepped to Ormond's side. "I trust them," he said. The two pairs of eyes swung to him, assessing him. Doric frowned. The cloak was definitely the same cut as a ranger's cloak, but it was patterned in black and white. Will ignored the battlemaster and addressed Merrilon. "Will, Ranger 50, he said. The other ranger nodded. "Merrilon, 27. He put a little stress on the number, to imply that he was senior to Will. In fact, he wasn't. Aside from Crowley and a select command group of senior rangers, all members of the Corps were equal in rank. Their numbers were assigned as they became available, when other rangers retired or died. It was sheer chance that Will, as the newest recruit to the Corps, had received the number 50. "You're Holt's apprentice, aren't you?" Merrilon added disparagingly. "I was, yes," Will replied. Merrilon nodded once or twice, then continued in a patronizing tone. "Yes, well, as you grow a little older, Will, you'll learn that Scandians aren't to be trusted. They're a treacherous race." Will forced himself to take a deep breath before he answered. There weren't many fools in the Ranger Corps, but he realized he'd just met one. He doubted the man had any personal experience of Scandians. "You're wrong," he said firmly. "I trust them, and we need them. We need a garrison here." Doric interrupted, waving toward the ranks of men in the courtyard. "We can supply that. I'll leave 50 men here." "You'll leave Norgate weakened if you do. You must have stripped the garrison to put this force together." Doric hesitated. The young ranger was right. It was all very well to put together an expeditionary force for an emergency rescue, but to leave a large number of them here would weaken Norgate seriously. Before the battlemaster could answer, Will added, "And there's a Scotti army just across the border who might well decide to attack Norgate if they see its garrison is under strength." He was right again, Doric realized. The fact did nothing to soften his brisk manner. He turned on Ormond. "What happened to your normal garrison?" he demanded, an accusing note in his voice. "The usurper, Keren, got rid of them. They're scattered all over the countryside. It will take months to get word to them and get them back here." "Well, you've made a right mess of things, haven't you?" Doric burst out. For a moment, Ormond flushed angrily. This was a delicate situation. As chatelaine, he was equal in rank to the Fife's battlemaster. Both of them answered to the Baron at Norgate, and it was difficult to know who had the final say in matters here. It was a situation that called for large amounts of tact and diplomacy, qualities that Sir Doric seemed to have left behind at Castle Norgate. "And we retrieved the situation thanks to the Scandians," Ormond said smoothly. "Now, we've made an arrangement with them to stay on as garrison until I can recruit enough local men." "You've made an arrangement?" Merrilon said incredulously. "Exactly who made this arrangement?" "I did," Will replied. Merrilon nodded again. He was still fuming over Will's bald statement telling him he was wrong. "Yes, I might have known. Everyone says you and Holt have a blind spot where these pirates are concerned." Still controlling his anger, Will replied, "The Scandians need a place and materials to build a ship. We've agreed to give them that. In return, they'll garrison the castle as long as necessary. We need them. They need us. It's a good arrangement all round. But it's not up to you to make arrangements, is it? This is not your fief. I am the ranger here, not you, and I don't approve of the deal you've made with these pirates. Merrilon was slightly taller than Will, and he leaned down to bring their faces level. Will was tempted to step backwards, but he realized this would be a mistake. He held his ground. He drew breath to answer, but Horace stepped forward and forestalled him.
2 things,
the young knight said, deciding it was time he took a part in this discussion.
First, I'd like everyone to stop referring to the Scandians as treacherous pirates. They're friends of mine.
His voice was quiet and calm. He spoke deliberately, but there was no mistaking the underlying threat in his words. He studied the Norgate Ranger. Like Will, Horace had been briefed by Holt and Crowley before he came north. He had asked the same question. Why couldn't the local ranger take care of the problem? They had told him that the local man was known and the mission was secret. He realized now that their reasoning went deeper. The job required energy and imagination and the ability to improvise. Merrilon simply wasn't up to the task. He saw he had everyone's attention now, so he addressed Merrilon directly.
And if you're in charge here, as you claim, where the devil were you when you were needed?
Merrilon opened his mouth to reply, but Horace waved his words aside.
I don't recall seeing you coming up with the plan to take the castle. I'm sure you didn't provide a force to do it with, and I certainly didn't see you storming the battlements with me.
There was a moment's silence. Horace reflected that he had never had the nerve to speak to a ranger this way. He respected and admired the corps too much for that. And as he had that thought, another realization struck him.
In fact, if you're the local ranger, how did you let this situation develop in the first place? I thought you people were supposed to keep an ear to the ground.
He waved his arm around the castle courtyard.
All this should never have happened, and that's what I'll be saying in my report.
Merrilon spluttered, too furious to speak. Sir Doric took up the challenge for him.
And who the devil might you be?
Horace looked at him and smiled, but without the slightest trace of humour. He was a self-deprecating person, and he usually eschewed titles. But he felt it was time for a little rank pulling. He folded his arms across his chest.
I am Sir Horace, Knight Chevalier of the Oakleaf, B Company Commander, Araluen Royal Guard, and appointed champion to Cassandra, the Princess Royal.
Now, that really did stop the conversation. Words like Royal Guard and Princess Cassandra gave Horace considerable cachet. He was a man who had access to the highest authority in the land, and he was planning a report. A report that said he found arrangements here unsatisfactory. Doric allowed himself one bitter sidelong glance at Merrilon. Why did you let this happen? It said. Then he addressed Ormond in a more placatory tone.
Lord Ormond, perhaps I spoke in some haste. Forgive me if I've caused offence. After all, it's been a long, hard ride to get here.
And of course, you and your men are tired and need rest. Ormond took the proffered olive branch smoothly. Will was impressed by the chatelain's tact. Ormond had no wish to score points or gloat. All he wanted was an amicable solution to the situation. Perhaps my people could show your men to their quarters.
I'd be grateful, sir,
Doric said, with a slight bow. Ormond turned to his secretary. Xander, take care of it, please. Then, turning back to Doric, he said, and perhaps we could continue this discussion over luncheon, after you've had a chance to rest and bathe and change. Doric's bow was more evident this time. Again, sir, you're too kind. We could use a rest. Hey, Merrilon. Merrilon, tight-lipped, muttered agreement. Rangers, of course, enjoyed the highest level of independence, being answerable only to the king. But Horace's royal connections had trumped that ace very neatly. Besides, Merrilon knew that Will's actions, while unorthodox, had been successful. And success tended to make the unorthodox totally acceptable. Brushing past Will, he followed Doric and Ormond into the keep, leaving Will, Horace, and Mallkallam to bring up the rear. Since when have you been Evelyn's champion? Will asked in an aside. Horace grinned at him. Well, I'm not actually, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time.